brought the book.
Nice.
So let's cast. I've got a question. I've got a couple of cases that are starting to come in droves, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on these. Traffic related.
Okay.
So, and something everybody I think out there, I like your slogan.
Yeah.
So Future First, Zach Divelbiss here. Future First here with the Arizona firm, Dana Hogel. And we're going to talk about road rage.
Nice.
And those 5-second mistakes, those 5-second decisions that people make in traffic that can have disastrous effects criminally. And so I just got one across, and this is fresh, and this is what made me think, oh, sweet, Divelbiss is coming in tomorrow, because I was pretty excited about it. I mean, who would know better about this subject than a homegrown AJ product?
Yeah.
Assault with a synthetic deadly weapon. And so it's somewhere in that book.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen the charge written that way before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is new.
This is great. See, part of why this is great too, especially for like all of our listeners in Arizona here. This is the trend come April, May, June, and then through the whole summer.
Right.
It gets hot out, people's blood boils, and then here comes the road rage cases.
Every year, right around this time, when it starts getting a little warm, the road rage starts popping out, and
the road rage, the assaults, it's just
the domestic violence,
tempers flare. And then it cools off, right? When it cools off, that's when we get a lot more like the thefts, the shopliftings. People are wearing more clothing, hiding more things, and
they got more options.
A lot more drinking. Well, drinking is kind of year round here in Arizona.
Yeah, it's a year round sport.
Yeah, like alcohol, DUIs, and stuff like that, year round. There's no.
That's a year round sport here in Arizona. I mean, it's let's just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, but road rage, and I've never seen them phrase it as like essentially what I'm assuming that you got there is there was probably an accident, and so they're now saying you had a deadly weapon, thus the weapon being the car.
Could be.
Okay.
Could be. I don't 100% know, because it's a felony 3.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty deep felony.
It's gotta be,
And so there had to be some threat of life of some sort with some synthetic, whatever we're going to call that at this point. So now I'm seeing verbiage that who came up with this as a charging attorney. I mean, usually 100% of the time you're going to see assault with a deadly weapon, and they'll define it as a deadly weapon. I've seen some variations of that. Years ago, I had a flare gun case wherein that wasn't considered a deadly weapon.
No, because the deadly weapon statute, it has to be designed for deadly use.
Right, for lethal force.
Yeah, and I took a case, they dismissed it 1 week before trial on a stupid pocket knife case. But anyways, it's a pocket knife that doesn't fold, and that's part of the definition here in Arizona. So it's basically on the side of a hip, and guy's a prohibited possessor, and they're like, this is a deadly weapon. And we literally hired an expert here in Arizona who this is all they do, and they like build knives for a living, the whole nine, came in, wrote up this huge piece basically explaining and did the research on the actual knife that this guy had, and was like, there's no way a $10 knife made in China ever meets this description of designed for deadly use.
It's not a shank.
It just, and a shank, again, within itself may or may not be
May or may not come to find out.
Because it's a toothbrush. Like, let's say it was designed to be a toothbrush.
Right. But filed down in prison, it's a shank.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a lot that goes into that, but not that it blew my mind. We went into this going, this is crazy. They're really reaching. Granted, they thought this guy was in a gang, so they were trying to peg him on anything. And
they dismissed this case.
Yeah, they dismissed it a week before. And of course, the prosecutor's expert witness in these is always just a police officer with a hobby.
Right.
And literally this police officer who was their expert was like, yeah, like I do taekwondo, karate, and with some of my training,
with mixed martial arts crap.
Literally. And so he's like, yeah. And so through that, I've been trained on how to use weapons.
Like a lightsaber.
One of the weapons thus being like a knife in self-defense. And he's like, so I know this is a deadly weapon. And I was just like, how are you trying to connect these dots? And the judge saw right through it too. It was like, look, I got to let them in because they crossed the expert threshold, which isn't high. Like the guy had never written any professional articles, never been published. He's an
This
officer.
is going to be great. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. So you have a pretty, other than your client isn't legally pretty, you have a very legally pretty case because your expert is dialed in. It's going to surpass theirs. I love the way you put that. They're expert that has a hobby. They're police officer, cop with a hobby. And did he have a mustache?
I don't even remember.
Because if he had a mustache, he was a motor with a hobby.
Yeah.
And we all love the motors. So I see this come across the desk yesterday, and I'm like, holy catfish. So a little digging into this one, it's not road rage, but that was my immediate thought. And so I was so excited about the topic to talk to you about. Because I've seen, and I'm sure your variations, because you never you never disappoint. You come right out the chute with an expert that says, here is the list. Let me get my scroll out. Here is the list of what a deadly weapon and how it is defined and how it is, under the statute.
Yeah.
And he probably even knows a little bit about public policy and all that crap. I mean, who knew? But
yeah, and look, you don't get a perfect expert in every case, and it's hard to afford experts and things like that. And we really.
I may be calling you for that one sometime.
Yeah.
Maybe this time, this go around, because it's not
That's
road
true.
rage at all. And so now I'm like, oh crap. So now I'm wondering so I'm waiting on the police report and all the DRs and all that crap to see what's what. But it's going to turn this cat's life upside down, and he has no idea what they're even talking about.
Yeah,
He's got a warrant, and he comes in, and he's one of our personal injury clients. He has no criminal background whatsoever, and he's panicked. He's like, I don't know what they're even talking about, and I'm over here going, I frankly don't either.
Yeah.
So we'll find out. In the meantime, let's quash some warrants and order some DRs, which is evidence.
Of course, yeah.
And let's order the evidence up. Let's get the police reports in, and let's see what they're talking about.
Yeah, and it's crazy how fast these kind of things, these 5-minute mistakes, escalate because road rage doesn't ever start out, and it's always a he said, she said. They cut me off first, and they cut me off, and they slammed the brakes, and I avoided an accident. And then, one person, gives them the one-winger wave, and then the next person, waves a gun at them. And then, boom, you just think pulling a gun up and like showing it, is you protecting yourself is always the story of like, yeah, look, I thought they might have had a gun because the finger they held up looked like a gun. And so I pulled out my gun. And then it's like, well, cool. You just, your little misdemeanor road rage, boom, you're now felony level.
Yep.
You're dealing with the felony judges, the felony prosecutors, the felony court system. Yeah. It is not a walk in the park. It is like, for sure, you get a lawyer to fight this.
Yep.
Especially a private one, because your PDs, with all due respect, like they don't have the time to flesh that out and get a prosecutor convinced back down to a misdemeanor. Once they go up to a felony, they want to stay at the felony.
They're wanting to stick there.
Yeah. So
they're wanting to stick there, and and pulling out a gun. There's an official term for that in the book. They're brandishing. Yeah. And so you brandish a firearm, and I have seen the most ridiculous brandishing charges in my life. During my tenure here, Arizona is so fun. Yeah. Because
we're gun friendly until you're in trouble.
Both from here. Guns are part of the DNA of Arizona. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to get, but easy to get in trouble with them.
Oh man, it's like, which is crazy. Like Arizona's obviously one of the most gun friendly states that there is. Yep. Like very easy to buy, very easy to sell, 18, open carries. But the moment you are accused of misusing that gun, and the moment the officer agrees that you might have misused it,
you're in some hot water.
It is so difficult to convince a prosecutor, a judge,
or a jury
that you didn't misuse it. And again, it's a huge battle. And obviously there's good reason, right? Because guns can escalate things so fast. Yeah. But Arizona has a lot of pro-gun rights, and so it's a battle we see every day.
So we have a lot of guns and a lot of problems with them.
You would think that the judges, the prosecutors, the justice system would be more gun-friendly, but it's not.
No, they're not. They're stingy with their gun charges.
The legislator very happy with guns. The court system not
so happy. They're not. The check and balance is kind of off here.
Yeah.
So what we have. I've got a case some years ago, and I've got a dude that had kind of like your fella that had that you had that great expert for. I didn't have that great expert for this particular case, and I kind of wish I did. We did prevail in trial, but it had to go all the way through.
Yeah.
But it had a big old long laundry list of some things this individual had done in the past. It had been quite some time. If I remember right, it had been well over a decade since he'd served time in prison, though, and it was a violent crime. Inherited a gun that his dad had passed away, inherited a gun. And the gun mattered very much to this dude, and mattered very much to his dad, and mattered very much to the dad that gave it to him. It was an heirloom. And it's in his closet, and knowing that he's a prohibited possessor, the father, before passing away, sometime while having all faculties and all sorts of things, dissembled the gun.
Okay.
Completely dissembled the gun. So
remove firing pins.
Yep,
and all that.
The firing pin was out, and the barrel was off the stock, and so the gun was in pristine shape still, but no firing pin.
Yeah.
And the barrel was not.
Yeah.
So bottom line, it couldn't fire.
Essentially, not a projectile weapon.
It was
anymore.
not a projectile weapon. It was basically you can throw it at somebody.
It's pretty heavy.
Right. It was heavy. You could throw it at somebody. Maybe cause a bruise. Maybe you knock them out. Who knows? But my point is so this sucker went all the way to trial, and I was biting my fingernails down to the nubs because who knows which way this is going to go, because your guy isn't forgiven.
Yeah.
For what had transpired a decade plus ago, at all. I
Not
mean,
at all.
They're looking at this fella and they're going to say, okay, he's bad. He's a bad guy.
Yeah. Prohibited possessor. I mean, it's essentially absolute, right? Either you're a prohibited possessor or you're not. There's not really a gray area there. So the only thing that we're left to fight is, was it a gun or was it not a gun, right? Obviously a little more legal than that, but
right.
You know, and we
bottom line,
but we encounter this a lot more these days with. Please don't do this. Just for the love of God.
Here we go.
Everybody watching this, please stop manufacturing with 3D printers firearms. You are getting in so much trouble beyond just Arizona into the federal world, and you just think, oh well, I didn't realize it would work. Like they do.
They work.
And then people play the I didn't know card. And I will tell you this right now, especially if you are seeing this, they have heard that. The police have heard that. The prosecutors have heard that. The judges heard that. This might be new for you.
Maybe.
Maybe. And like, I didn't know anybody else had done this before. Yes, they've done it. It's bad.
Yeah.
And you will get in trouble.
And you will get in deeper trouble than if you just bought a 1911.
Literally, yeah. Spend $200 and
go get yourself a pistol and at a pawn shop, and that you're going to get in less trouble with that gun than the 3D
exactly. And
guns.
It makes it even worse when you're a prohibited possessor, and then you have the gun that's built whether by you or somebody else, because it's just like you knew that this was not even allowed, and then you took the next step, right? And that's where
they got to protect their family, or they live in a bad neighborhood, or they blah 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 blah, and it's like, oh boy.
Yeah, as a prohibited possessor, I mean, you really got to go get your rights back. I mean, as much as that's possible, which it is very possible.
Oftentimes, you and I do that all the time for folks, and so I mean, this fella that had been in trouble 10 years prior, that still would have come in.
Yeah.
In this particular case, theoretically. Now, we finagled it to where it did not, but he still looked as though
that's hashtag lawyered.
It was lawyered a little. It was finagled. Hashtag lawyered. It was
there's
hashtag
a book
solved.
Says things are allowed, not allowed.
Yeah, there's a book. Right.
All of that.
It was a little bit prejudicial on this one, and and the judge went with our motion of limine on that one. Hashtag lawyered.
Yeah.
Great work. Did a little bit of stretching on that one, and rightfully so. Anyway, so we got through that one. But I'm thinking, okay, it's getting hotter. And people look, I have a lot of flaws personally. And Reed back behind the camera there, my son can verify that I have a lot of flaws. I don't get ticked off in traffic, ever. Like, I'm the dude waving somebody on by. It's like, okay, whatever. I don't, my temperature does not rise. But I have noticed that I'm alone I have a small group of folks in which I hang with in this group. Like when we meet for our meetings, all three of us in the state of Arizona, and the other two are over the age of 80. And they're probably the reason why people get so ticked off. But I mean, people get hot under the collar behind the wheel. I mean, they really take it serious. And yeah, you did early on in the conversation before we got off onto some fun topics. Early on, you said, you know, they're weaving, they're ducking, they're cutting each other off, they're
running
brake
late.
checking.
The whole nine.
They're
there's
brake
excuses.
checking. They're starting to, you know, the one finger salute, calling somebody number one with the wrong number one sign. And you got all sorts of stuff. And there's weapons involved. There's running people off the road. Now you've got possibly assault with deadly because your car then becomes a deadly weapon. I suppose the message out there, because it's a 5-minute mistake, that you kind of coined that phrase.
Yeah.
You know, future first, the 5-minute mistake is very real.
Yeah, and don't let it hurt your whole future. Like,
just somebody cutting you off in traffic does not deserve any type of you having criminal issues.
Yeah.
Whether they be misdemeanor or beyond. Racing, drag racing. I mean, look, I never thought that the Dukes of Hazzard would make a comeback. It's kind of made a comeback. I mean, there's a lot more drag racing going on than I thought would be apparent. Now, it's seemingly last year type thing, but I still see it.
Yeah. I roll my eyes at drag racing. It's what the statute calls it, or exhibition speed. And this is one of those, I think, bogus laws that's still on the books that the legislators should have cleared up, made it better. They've appealed this a bunch, saying it was too vague, and then the higher level courts came back saying, no, it's good enough. And it's like, yeah, sure, it's good enough to be broad. And so, like, the drag racing traditional thing is like, I'm next to the other person, and we're going to see who's going faster. And it's really so much broader than that. Like, you don't even have to know the other person. You don't even have to be next to them. You could be behind them. You could be in front of them. You could be 4 lanes apart from each other. Like, you could just coincidentally both be speeding.
It's incredibly
and never
subjective.
even seen the other person.
There's no objectivity.
When an officer, these are some of the best trials we've ever won, actually, because the officers come in and we ask, what is your training on this? How did you actually distinguish this from just an independent crime or no crime at all?
Or somebody speeding civilly.
Literally, they don't know. And I feel bad for the officers in a lot of these situations, because they're like, yeah, look, in our training, we were just told that, look, we hear a loud engine, we hear a squeaking wheel. If we then look up from the report we're writing and we see a blue, a red, Mustang, a Corvette, whatever, like, we pull that person over, we charge them with racing.
Dodge.
you know,
got all sorts of fast cars now, and some of them don't even make noise anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
They make fake noise.
Yeah.
You can get them to where make fake noise.
Drag racing a criminal charge versus just civilly speeding?
Okay, so Reed asked, is drag racing a criminal charge? And we're going to answer that with a resounding yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's big. I mean, you lose a ton of points on your license.
Yep.
You get multiples.
It's up there with a DUI.
Yeah, you get multiples on this too. You got mandatory jail going into this. Like, it's fun when you don't get caught, of course, like most crimes. But the consequences are huge. It's like,
can you say that again in slow-mo? Like, most crimes are really fun, robbing banks.
Yeah, it's really fun until the police show up and you're in handcuffs, like, and your car's getting towed and you're not getting it back for 30 days.
Right.
And it was a car you were borrowing. And it's
it's
snowballs.
fun right up until it ain't.
Like, I mean, and this is one that, like, nobody needs to get hurt on it even.
Right.
Like, obviously, similar to a DUI, there's the likelihood increases, you know, at higher speeds and racing and all of that somebody might accidentally get hurt, especially a bystander car, you know, somebody that wasn't involved at all. But yeah, it's just, they take it so seriously.
They really do. And nobody really drives like they're driving Miss Daisy anymore. And they're rolling around on these roadways. And I mean, it's really getting, I mean, I'm seeing more of these charges nowadays. People are seemingly angry at the world, and they're not people that you would normally, they seem very normal.
Yeah.
When they come through the door.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, the historical, it is no longer a male only problem. Let me put it that way.
Yes,
too.
because it used to be, you had to have a mullet. Now, no, you can be female, male.
The age, it's a whole spectrum of people who do this.
58-year-old gal came in about 3 weeks ago and going 117 miles an hour. Yeah. And that's getting it done, but it wasn't just criminal speed. That gal was getting after it with somebody on a crotch rocket.
Yeah. And then you pick up the endangerment felony in that.
You could. She wasn't charged. She could have been.
Yeah. And that's like, to give officers credit sometimes they like will be a little friendly there.
Yeah.
But then other times like they charge it and
they could have charged it with both. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And most of the time I see both getting charged with the same exact charge and that endangerment thing. Yeah.
And endangerment's it's broad too. It's
It's
one of those like
incredibly
anything
broad.
That's at risk of
the frog
injury or damage.
That was on the side of the road that was thinking about crossing was endangered. I mean, endangerment really is that broad. I mean, it is about as broad as street racing.
Yeah, it is.
It's crazy, and so you wonder what the legislature's thinking, and especially when these things roll through appellate courts, and the appellate court sees it and somehow thinks that it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what amazes me. Like there's an old statute still on the books out of Avondale, I think, but don't quote me on it, but I think it's in Avondale. Like no spitting in public buildings. Did they have like a spitting spree in public buildings only? Like, did people go to public buildings to spit? I mean, I'm wondering why they're doing this why this law is still hanging on the books.
Yeah.
The book is getting bigger. It should actually be getting smaller.
Yeah, I mean, the book is easy to add to it because, more paper, win-win-win for the publishing companies. And look, all these, the book started out so small because the rationale that I explained to a lot of people, even people who work at the law firm, of like, hey, the law firm's really fun right now. We have a great culture. But until somebody does something wrong, it's fun. But the moment somebody does something wrong, you took it too far, then we have to create a rule.
There's a new rule.
And so that's how this book got created. They said, look, people are doing this wrong, and somebody in a position of power with enough influence, convinced the lawmakers to create a new law.
Right.
And while yes, that's kind of a little Hollywood, that is how it works long term, and there's minimal advocacy, people supporting removing laws, even if the law is 100 years old, even if it means nothing.
Why is there no advocacy?
Because it's so hard to get into the public eye as somebody who is removing laws.
Well, like the people that came up with that spitting thing, or witchcraft. You can't have witchcraft in some of our towns. Like literally, Paige would be arrested anywhere we went in some of those Dale cities.
Yeah,
over there.
Tempe's got all these
because she's an astrology person. She likes to talk about the stars, and I always call her. That's just straight witchcraft. Give me a break.
I mean, we got camel laws, we got cactus laws.
Cactus laws are great.
They are
camel.
We got brothel laws.
Yes, we do have brothel laws.
Yeah,
which still might apply a little. I think we should bring them back.
It's funny, and also the purpose of this is so let's say the person who's trying to create this law is trying to solve a certain problem. So they have every good intent to solve this problem. And then they create the law, like lawyers, us really smart lawyers get involved and we go out the roof with it. And then now we're causing other problems, right? So there's also a little play in there.
Yeah, we take it a bit far.
Yeah, I basically
the profession takes it a bit far.
Lawyers, if there's any problem, it's usually because of a lawyer.
Isn't it fun that? But we join this category of this field, and we make fun of ourselves often because we're the reason the book gets so big half the time. We're the ones that need the new policy. We push it a little bit too far. I like to call it the I didn't see that coming book. Like that whole entire book is full of, I didn't see that coming. Probably had to write something down about that. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of this stuff, how did you not see it coming? And other things, why are you even talking about it?
And they purposely leave a lot of things out. Look, and because they know laws will stand, the test of
and
time.
they flex
And so
too.
so they say, hey, we try to be broad here, but also specific, and use your interpretation. This is why people go to law school, so that way it can be interpreted. And judges can also interpret things, and judges can also choose which laws to follow and not follow.
Yeah.
And prosecutors can choose to prosecute every law in here if they wanted to, but they choose not to.
No, and then sometimes they choose C. And sometimes they just come and just want it to be B, and B fits way better, but man, they got to have C. So what we're talking about is under subsections of interesting laws that we have that we defend. There's usually, okay, your road rage, A, it's this, B, it's that, and C, it's this. And we really want an A or a B because there's a diversion process or maybe less points or whatever. It's a little bit of a different penalty.
Yeah, a little more friendly.
A little bit user-friendly, let's call it. And C just really jams them real good. And we get a prosecutor that just hell-bent on C.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's like a lot of these misdemeanor laws, and then letter C is like, if it involved a gun, felony.
Felony 3. Automatic. I know. You're taking the elevator ride.
We avoid that at all costs.
Taking the elevator ride on up to Felonyville. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like, okay, we've got, so road rage and many of these cases do land in misdemeanor.
Yeah.
But I like that you call that 5-minute mistake that you originate. I'm just giving you total trademark on it.
It's just totally words in a dictionary.
I just loved it. It's what brought us together, man. You can play the Carpenter music all you want, or some Lionel Richie. Yeah, or Chicago. These are bands you might not know.
No, I've heard of
Green Day?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Hey, Linkin Park is back on, I guess.
Snap.
Someone younger than me was telling me that, and I was like, I didn't even know that.
Linkin Park's back?
Yeah, they have a female lead singer, and she was on the radio or something.
How can that be allowed?
Amazing. It sounded great. I loved it. I was like,
oh, okay. Maybe
took me back.
Maybe you're going to need to send it to me. I'm going to check that out. I loved Linkin Park, and that was a youthful thing for me to kind of be part of because I was way too old to be listening to Linkin Park. But I like them. Okay, so
how do you feel? I got a PSA here. PSA, summer's here. Drinking and driving, it's always around. Mm-hmm. It's hot, air conditioning in your car. What if you want to sleep it off?
Oh, yeah.
What are your best practices on that? And where does the law kind of draw some lines?
Well, the law draws lines, as you well know. And nowadays, with no keys in the ignition anymore, you've got just a fob laying around and a button to push. Mm-hmm. So keys in a car, and if it's running, I mean, there's no question DUI if you've been drinking and you're in the vehicle. And you're
asleep.
And asleep. Right. You're dead nuts asleep. But
in the driver's seat.
In the driver's seat. So you got a steering wheel in front of you and the car's on, you're done.
Yeah.
Goose
whether you're
cooked,
asleep or not.
Right. And you can be asleep. You could be daydreaming. You could be staring at the headboard as it's spinning around. Mm-hmm. You can be
in a parking lot, in a parking space.
Absolutely. And
perfectly legal spot to park.
And the emergency brake can be on. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could even have, you could even have no tires on the vehicle. I mean, at some point, you could start taking some of these things off and get funny with it. But the reality is a lot of people try to wait it out in their car. Don't wait it out in your car. Now,
or move to the back seat, a passenger seat,
back seat. And they still try to do stuff with that, but it gives us a lot to work with.
And this is where I think, PSA-wise, look, drinking and driving is really bad. And I think there are people out there who do not want to drink and drive.
Right.
However, they fall into this weird circumstance where they couldn't get a ride home, whatever it is. And so they say,
I'd
rather just wait in my car, turn the air conditioning on, and sleep it off. Please do not sit in the front seat. Yes, we know you got to go hit the brake, turn the car on, then immediately go to the back seat.
Finagle it.
Immediately go to the back seat. Yeah, or exactly. Try and reach over and hit the brake from the passenger seat and the start button. Because if an officer finds you, or if somebody calls in saying you are asleep in the driver's seat with the car on,
or keys in the car,
you're for sure going to get the DUI.
Yeah.
And the only way to not even 100% avoid it, but the best way to avoid it is to be in the back seat or the passenger seat. And then you can crank the AC, you can crank the radio.
Yep.
Nobody cares to some degree until, then the officer sits there, watches you, and knows that you're going to wake up soon and then get in the driver's seat. So watch out for that trick.
They do that trick.
Yeah.
They wait for you to sleep it off, and they just sit there. And there's some of them are more patient than others, but it does happen.
Yeah.
But yes, okay, rule number 1, I like where you're going with this. Rule number 1, do not get in the driver's seat, period, end of story, if you're impaired.
Absolutely.
And then rule number 2 is if you're going to sleep it off, okay, look, your thought process is better than most people that are impaired, but you can't sit in the driver's seat to start the vehicle.
Not at all.
And so either try an alternative way around, or if you're going to be in the vehicle, make sure you start the vehicle from a non-operating position.
Yeah.
And if there's a police officer around, walk over to them and ask them to start the vehicle for you while you sit in the passenger and or back seat, and just say, I'm just going to sleep this off till tomorrow. See you then.
And that is a fantastic point, because I get cases a lot where the situation happens, especially at casinos. And casinos have the best camera systems, guys, especially in their parking garages.
And we have a lot of casinos now.
And they save all the footage. Again, they watch you go into the driver's seat to turn the car on and then walk to the passenger seat, which is what it is. But, still better, but it's still against the law right there, because that 1 second
minute
that you are there starting the car in the driver's seat is actual physical control, and they have it recorded, and now they just got to submit that to the officer. But those security guards, they're usually very nice people. They're usually very accommodating. They take a lot of people for golf cart rides to get to their cars.
Sure.
People get lost in these parking garages, and have them
you
start
have
your
some
car.
experience with this, do you?
Have them start your car, and you sit in the passenger seat.
That's genius.
I've had tons of cases like this.
That's genius.
Shocking.
Though.
Exactly.
That's genius to have because the security guys there would
Absolutely.
in a hot minute. And so would some stranger, although I don't know if I want to go there. We want to give solid alternative ideas so people can not break the law, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're not giving you tips on how to break the law better. We're just giving you tips on how not to break.
Because I think people try not to.
Yeah, I think so.
And they have the best intent in mind, but then they don't realize just even sitting in the seat is enough.
Well,
right?
I think the sleeping it off flavor is bit more people than it will ever not bite. I mean, it's very prevalent, and it's kind of like having a 5.0 Mustang GT that's all muscled up,
souped up,
and it's hard to stay out of that. It's hard to stay out of the accelerator on that thing. Sounds real good. I mean, it's built for speed.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to stay out of it. Well, the same thing goes for those that are impaired and are going to sleep it off. 9.9 out of 10 of those folks get pinched and they end up with a DUI, absent some miraculous, concoction that actually, absent being lawyered to some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, part of why I bring this up is we're fighting one right now where the individual sitting in the driver's seat, parked, cars off, keys are in the lap. And it's a newer officer, so he's going to learn. He's going to learn that this does not count as a DUI. It is not actual physical control. And part of the argument that we have, and we've done like the license suspension hearing and everything, is there's no proof that this vehicle even runs or turns on or anything like that, because the officer never turned the car on. This guy never had the car on. There is no proof that this is even an operational vehicle.
It's a barn, as far as we know.
I mean, sure, it's obviously conspicuous how it made it on the side of a road.
Obviously.
But, again, that's the whole point.
Details.
It's a broken down car. And that's it's not necessarily that you were operated the car drunk to get it there. It's like from that point of sleeping, you could wake up and then drive and then be operating
the car. That's a what if, and the keys in his lap are really, or he or she's lap, is really, really handy.
And especially, this is one of the very, very few times that it actually helps to have an open container in the car, because it's like, they parked the car potentially and turned everything off and then started drinking and then fell asleep.
Right.
So
this is interesting.
That's how the alcohol got there.
Right. So you've got two things that you're
it's a whole whirlwind
side hustling on that.
DUIs, but does it count? Does it not count? What is the judge doing? Was the prosecutor doing? Was the officer's testimony? It's
fantastic.
It's a wheelhouse.
So did you interview?
And that's the stuff you can't put in a book, right? And this, you can't sparse out this scenario
Right.
and put it in a book.
No, you can't.
And that's why they have to write these so broad and try and account for different little scenarios.
And we're still going to find the sunlight.
Yeah.
We're still going to lawyer it.
Yeah. Well, the police are going to police it. We're going to lawyer it.
Right. Oh, hey, I like that. The police will police it.
Yeah. Look,
We're
if
gonna lawyer
the
it.
police don't police it, then we don't have anything to fight over.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the police use the judgment call and say,
Right.
"Hey, this person doesn't even have
This
the car
dude's
on.
just sitting there.
They're sitting in their car, and says, hey,
It's a lovely night out.
Yeah.
Windows are cracked just a hair, whatever the case. But it didn't matter if they were or weren't. But the keys are not in the ignition, and so you don't have physical control.
yeah."
Period. End of story.
The car could be broken down, waiting for the tow truck driver. Said, "All right, well, this car doesn't run anymore.
I'm gonna just go buy myself a sixer
drink
and-
this beer
right.
that I was going to take to the
Home.
to the party or
I was
whatever."
saving.
Yeah. So isn't that wild?
Yes,
Yeah.
it
We love
is.
these.
I'd love to say I haven't seen it, but and we're going to see it again.
Yeah, but and this is part of also the prosecutor's discretion, and for everybody who's like, they can't do that. It's like, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
They
And-
can try,
And,
right?
And,
there's a
look,
justice
they're
system.
doing it.
Yeah,
but
like
but hopefully you win again.
Yeah.
This scenario. Hopefully you win the day. It's interesting to me that we have good intention people. I like the way you put that because they're not making that 5-second mistake in their mind. But they kind of are making a 5-second mistake, just getting in the vehicle without knowing the proper way. So let's hope that message gets out there. I like that idea. It's just be in a non-steering wheeled spot in the vehicle, and fire the AC away. It's go nuts on the AC. I mean, gas prices are not that much lower, so it's going to burn through some gas. It's going to be an expensive night. You may want to consider possibly an alternative, cheaper route than burning a lot of fuel sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always these people that are really hard to convince, though, that they must have their car at home or something. It's like shocking, especially look, Ubers and Lyfts, they're $30 one way. They're not cheap either, right?
They used
30
to
to
be
50.
cheaper.
They
Yeah,
used to be
they're
$5 you get
right, they
somewhere.
were great.
It was nice.
Now
But,
it's like roadside robbery.
yeah, it's like it's like $100 round trip to go get your car and all this and the inconvenience and all this.
I'm
stuff.
encouraging
I
people
get
to
it,
walk.
That's,
But my house is 47.
The summer's coming up here.
Look, we were born here. We weren't
Yeah,
made
yeah.
for AC. We could do this.
I say that, and then every summer sequentially, I've been like,
Gets
how
hotter.
did I used to ride a motorcycle in this? Every day.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, barely understand my car.
Yeah, every day. every
day.
day with hair everywhere and crap on, and it's like we just went from hose to hose if we even drink anything. And you know what I mean? It's like we were miles.
Oh, easy, especially the hose part.
Oh yeah, but miles and miles and miles of we just kept going, and now they're just okay. Anyway, my point is we could bring back some toughness. You could make that your mid-year resolution.
Yeah, but and this is where people make the 5-minute mistake. They say, I've drank and drove before. I didn't get caught before. I probably won't get caught this time.
Yeah.
And they do.
You brought that up before, and I do agree 100%. I mean, it's a progressive.
Yeah.
It's
You push the limit.
Yep. I drank and got away with it.
Few times.
Drank and drove, got away with it. Drank and drove, got away with it. Drank and drove, got away with it.
And you've convinced yourself you're good at this.
Yes.
And,
Now you're a really good
it's not,
driving
that's not
impaired.
The way it works, yeah.
You're a really good drunk driver, or I'm not drunk at all, and it's just like at some point, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So we're big advocates on trying to help people through this scenario, but and frankly, I wanted to talk a lot more about, but we covered it quickly about people being pissed off too.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot of people get really pissed off really quick.
Yeah.
In traffic. Don't try to find something before you get ticked off in traffic, because there's a lot of folks out there listening, going, yeah, okay.
I hate these cases because people who are innocent bystander, we get this kind of case every now and again where somebody witnesses an accident, something like that, witnesses a crime, and so they're Good Samaritan, right? They're coming in, they're calling 911, doing this, And then they then become a suspect because some situation escalated. The other person's, yelling at them.
Yep.
And then now they're like, well, I'm yelling back at you. And,
Right.
they think that since they weren't part of the initial car accident
Right.
or whatever it was, running the red light, that they were just, doing good by following and calling
Right.
police. It's like, yeah, but the moment you now do something,
You
the moment
entered
you
the game.
assault them, the moment you start pushing,
Disorderly
shoving,
conduct
like
or
you're,
assault.
that whole protection that you just had in the beginning, it's gone.
Your witness status just is cheated.
Yeah.
No, oh, wow. Just converted into you're now part of the crime.
Yeah, and people get real angry, especially sometimes even when police show up and they don't believe this side of the story. And then now you're like, I see like tempers rise really fast in a lot of these situations. Again, people with good intent and stuff, but man, like there's...
It's interesting when you get those cases, other types of stuff. We really stumbled upon something here. When you get somebody that calls 911 about a situation and they come out, and keep in mind that law enforcement, and they have with plenty of flaws, but they're coming to a situation that's unknown to them.
Yeah.
And this person, they don't know which was the caller right away or anything like that. They're coming to this new situation that, let's say, it's a unfortunate domestic violence scenario, and they start to interview in a accusatory way the person that called 911, that felt threatened, that was trying to seek help, and then all of a sudden that person ends up getting really ticked off because of the line of questioning,
the way they're being treated,
and now they're getting charged with, and I've seen this, they're getting charged now with aggravated assault because they got too ornery with law enforcement. And then also we have, and we have another domestic violence misdemeanor on the partner in the...
with the situation, the criminal damage,
defacing,
I
whatever.
I love this, especially heated arguments, right? This is a big thing, right? This stuff happens, right? Male to male, female to female, male to female, parents to kids, the whole nine, and everybody goes and breaks things, right? It just happens. It's not necessarily punching a wall, but it's like, here's this, plant, and I'm going to kick it over or whatever. And everybody feels entitled because it's my plant. It's my plate. I'm allowed to break this if I want to.
Right. And you can't. It's in
the
the
police,
book.
The police in the book don't see it that way.
No, the book does not see it that way. Neither do the police. And I don't understand it. I got to be straight with you. So look, you were listening to Linkin Park. I was more along the lines of a George Strait, George Jones, Merle Haggard. Okay, so, which I know you had some of that rolling in the AJville.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you had to have. Because anyway, big country guy. Well, half the country songs out there are punching a wall, or something. When did punching your own bloody when did your own bloody wall become something you couldn't punch?
Yeah, and
who put that in there?
And it's funny. The rationale is always, this is what we say. Well, hey, look, at least they punched the wall and not the person that they were arguing with. And they're like, great. So instead of going to jail, you now get counseling. And that's the way they look at this.
It's ridiculous to me. It's like, it is literally your wall. You have to. Now, I don't agree with putting a wall.
Early spring cleaning.
I don't agree with you putting a hole in your own wall. It seems dumb to me. I get it. Or kicking your own cactus. That seems dumb, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to fix both things. The foot, probably not the cactus, the foot or the wall. You got to fix whatever you do in your home. It's something that you got to fix. Look, it goes back to the road rage thing. Let's stop snapping so quick, and let's start, using our blinkers and chilling out in traffic. I mean, it's hot. Yeah. Think of a fun song or find some way to entertain yourself, because you know what?
And this is weird, and there's probably real studies and not just us dumb lawyers making things up right now with the way we feel. But
I think we got it.
We got this. All right. Logically, we should be more chill, especially through Arizona summers. I mean, snowbirds are gone, ASU's out, right? All these students are not here. The roadways are more open now, so you should be able to make it to wherever you're going quicker without needing to speed.
Logically, you're right.
But yet somehow it works the opposite.
And the air conditioning is pretty good nowadays.
Now it's like, hey, look, I see an open space for like 1 second. I need to be there.
Right.
And
my first 3 cars didn't have AC. Okay, just period. Did not even have it, and I didn't.
I had the beautiful Arizona air conditioning for
Right.
10 years on a motorcycle.
On a motorcycle
before I
you've
got a car.
no windows to even roll down.
Yeah.
You know, so you had that AC, same AC system, except mine was worse, a little more ventilated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yours was definitely a superior system. But point is look, we have air conditioning now for the most of us, unless you're dumb enough to drive my Jeep in the summertime, which it just sits in the garage in summer. It's not a summer dweller. But look, I mean, you're right. We should be more chill and more grateful for this heat because everybody's gone avoiding it.
You would think, but it just
No,
it
doesn't
doesn't.
happen
It just
that way.
again, this is where I think blood boils and stuff, and it don't matter what the roads are clear or not clear. Like you're
And the police
you're running
officers
it.
are more pissy too.
Oh, especially motorcycle cops. I mean, look, they ain't got no AC either. you
Yeah.
know,
In general,
and
when they
full
get out of their
outfit.
rig and they
yeah.
go and approach your rig, whether they're on their bike or not.
Best advice.
Oh, here we go.
Best advice, please. If you are getting pulled over, find a spot to pull over with shade.
Oh.
You are much more likely to have the officer either give you a warning or at a minimum be nicer to you and say thank you for pulling over in a spot with shade because they appreciate it too. They have to stand out in the heat. And now, obviously, please don't run from the police to find a shade spot.
Make the decision quickly and find a spot of shade.
Yeah, like if you see it, boom, that's your shade spot.
That-
Especially like an underpass on the
Yep.
freeway. Oh,
Perfect,
you're
yeah.
much more likely for them to thank you and maybe give you a warning.
It's possible.
It's very possible.
It is possible. I have used that before and inadvertently.
Yeah.
Okay, on the way to Pinal, you know how it goes down to
yeah,
55 there right after the 60
Yeah,
bends.
that's AJ.
Yeah,
Never
right.
AJ
Oh,
hit
that's a
Skull
home
Canyon.
score. Well, you're
That's-
almost going to move here pretty quick. I mean, you're moving that direction, and so
Coming home.
coming home, baby, you're taking a long way, but you're getting there. You're getting there. So bending around there, it goes to 55 until it hits back up to 65 for like 10 seconds, and inadvertently, inevitably,
Yeah.
there's
they know.
always a cop there. Usually not a motor, but usually okay. So anyway, I got pulled over, and there's like a few trees that have some shade, and I just pulled over, not really on purpose. I would love to say, brilliant move, right?
Yeah.
And law enforcement, the cop just said, "Hey, thanks for pulling over by the tree," and he did give me he said, "Hey, this goes from 55 to from here to here." So it's a very
Yeah.
good point you have.
It's a great tip. We're full of great tips. Another tip, especially if you're pulled over for speeding, you pull over, I pulled you over. No, I don't. And they say, look, you were doing this much in this roadway. And you go, oh my God, I had no idea. I'll go back and do it again. Right this time. You'll get a good laugh out of them, and then they'll say, "No, you had your chance."
Can I get a redo?
Hey, turn it around. I want to see you do it at the right speed.
I'd like a do-over. Can I go try this? Jump in.
Yeah.
Jump
you
in.
can follow me.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
we'll
do this. Let's do some
together.
rounds. but don't start drag racing. Don't get back into that.
Yeah.
What else
Fun
you want
tips.
to talk about? We're wrapping up.
Ooh, I've got one good one. This is hot button news.
Right.
I don't stumble upon that much news. I just found out, maybe late to the game. You might know this before I found out, like 2 days ago. Scottsdale PD is starting to connect AI to their body cams.
Mm-hmm.
So when they arrive on a scene, they activate the body cam. It records sound and audio.
Yep.
And when they now plug it back into their car after the incident's taken care of, whatever, it is now supposedly going to connect to an AI program that is going to basically essentially transcribe the interaction of
The whole
what
interaction.
just
and
happened.
will it generate the police report?
And it will supposedly do the police report. I don't like Scottsdale has one of the more complex computer systems of what their police report system does, but at a minimum, every officer writes what their involvement detailed. And now I think that's the section that is going to be going there. I'm so
wondering.
excited.
I'm kind of excited too because it feels like it's going to give us more to work with.
Absolutely. Body cams are fantastic, but they take forever to get access to.
And now you've got an AI, so it'll turn around much quicker.
Open.
And then you also have that whatever AI adds to whatever the
Yeah.
mix. So yeah, I heard about that, and I heard that they are committed to doing it. I mean, that's
I
like
heard
it's
they have people that are
there's some that are
officers that are
rolling
doing
it.
it. They're
Yeah.
doing it live now. I haven't got one of these cases yet.
I haven't
but
either.
I'm
no.
excited.
So we're gonna have to immediately jump on here and talk
Yeah.
about it, because how interesting that's going to be. I find that the more the merrier as far as evidence
Absolutely.
goes. And so,
Well, and look, it goes both ways, right?
Yep.
It could help us or it could hurt us, and that's the same thing with body
and sometimes
cams
a
too.
little of both too.
Yeah, body cams do both too.
Yep.
And the simple reality of it is, the officers sometimes get it right, but for the wrong reason. And you just don't know, right? And officers are human beings. They have to essentially memorize a 20-minute interaction with somebody, and then go back and write a
Write it later.
report either later that day or right afterward or a week later, right? There's no real time limit. There's policy. But by golly, if you can get a basically transcription to do that, I just can't see it hurting. I mean, look, there are bad apples in every profession, right? And
Sure.
the bad apples in the police force, they ain't going to write anything good anyways, and they're going to omit half of the things that help the person in every situation.
Right.
And sure, they obviously have control over what AI writes in there, and they could go in and delete all the things that, hurt their case. But I also think those bad apples don't care. They already think they're above
either.
the law.
Right.
They're not going to take that time. They're going to be like, hey,
and
this worked, and they can't get me in trouble. And boom,
This is
there
going to
it
get
is.
me in trouble, but they work for the government with policies.
Yeah.
And I just want
Lot
to
of
keep doing
tape.
that. A lot of tape. The requirement, the writing a report alone, and then reviewing it and
Yeah.
editing it. I mean, it's just like there's a lot of steps now. Now I could see them going and reviewing it when they're going to be interviewed by us.
Yeah.
I don't.
Months after the
Yeah,
incident. They're
but,
like, yeah,
but
what
in a
happened 3
traffic
months ago?
DUI type scenario, or what we're talking about, the racing on the road rage and the thises and the that's and the whatevers, and not pulling over in the shade, or the sleeping in the car while you're blitzed.
Yeah.
These types of cases, I don't think they're going to go over it with a fine tooth comb. And I do
yeah.
think Scottsdale's program is going to be everywhere before you can say Bob's your uncle, because I think that ultimately it takes the onus off the report writing, which is their least favorite part of the job.
Well, and I mean, I think AI in general, right? Every business is finding some way to utilize it because it has a lot of benefits. And, part of the issues is from an officer's perspective, they complain. They're like, how do you want me to respond to all these 911 calls and then write a report about every single one? Like, I can only do, let's say, 10 911 calls in a day.
Right.
Well, now if AI is writing their reports, they
could
can
do 15.
20. Yeah, they might. So there might be that win-win-win there for them. And I think, again, like, it might show the truth.
Might come at a cost.
Might not.
It'll be fun to see how it rides out.
Yeah.
I think that's exciting.
I think it's great, right?
I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. I read something about it. But now that you're
Well, they're not exactly
attention,
telling the public exactly what it does either, and we're part of the public. They don't give the lawyers some
we don't get an under the table note
newscast or anything that we find out when everyone else does.
We don't know what their policy is. That was really a good one. I'm going to be tickled about that. Well, so no more kids coming on the way and no more new dogs?
We do. We have one more. We have a girl coming here in 3 months. A little less than 3 months.
Yeah, we've got it. How long's it been since the last time we've potted?
It's been a minute. Yeah, I didn't think it had been, but then I was like, oh my God, I guess it has been.
Huh. Every time we pod, you've got a new one on the way or a new dog.
I meet
or
Reed
new house
every
last
time too. So that's how long.
You've met Reed?
Yeah, we meet Reed every time new, because it's like been so long that I'm like, I must have forgotten who that was. And then here he is again.
Have you ever met Zach before?
Reed's behind the cameras.
Oh. Well, he's got another kid coming. This is number 3.
Yeah, we'll be at number 3.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. We're really
little
excited.
girl.
It's gonna be our first girl.
Oh man, poor fellow. I have a little girl. I have all boys, and
I'm sure you're very excited about it.
she's one of the twins, so she's awesome. You just be prepared to be captured.
I'm prepared for anything, but who knows what's going to happen.
You're going to be captured. I mean, it's over between you and you.
I just
she now owns you, and you just don't even know it yet. She's not even
I believe
here
that.
yet.
I believe that 100%. And I'm just, it's so funny. Like, my two boys are amazing. They're great, very kind of calm demeanor. And I know she's going to come like a firecracker.
It's very likely.
And,
you
so
never
it's
know.
coming.
What if 0 to 10 usually give me the girl, and 10 for the rest of your life give me the boy. However, we'll see how that rolls for you. I mean, maybe she'll be calm, because you said you just have 2 little boys that are calm.
Yeah, they're great
demeanors. And Reed didn't calm down till 12, 13, and then he just went from 160 to 0.
All right.
And then, but Lola was dang near perfect right up until 13. Dang near. Clint, her twin brother, I wouldn't say Clint was Reed was my hardest kid from 0 to 12, but Clint was not an easy one, but not hard. Jesse was not hard either. He's giving me a run for it. So there's nothing to what I'm saying. Psychologically speaking, Reed's the one I wouldn't give back. All the rest of them are still,
up for debate.
Up for debate.
Jury's
completely.
out still.
Yeah, I mean, Reed got a win in the trial system, and he's moving on and kind of does his own thing. Has become a good man, and I'm proud of that. But the rest of them are still undecided. I'll keep you posted. But congratulations. So coming in 3 months?
Yeah, coming in 3 months. So, wife's excited. She's like, yeah, if, she could be here in like 3 weeks, that'd be great. She's
Right.
over that, especially midsummer, peak pregnancy, all of that.
Oh.
I mean, but we're really excited too. Like, my wife and I, we're a little on the younger side, right? In our young 30s here. And so we now get to decide, what kind of parents do we want to be? What do we want this, to look like? And so it's really changing our identity too, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you go from, double income, no kids, and we can do whatever we want, whenever we want.
Right.
Who cares how late we stay up or anything like that? Let's go travel tomorrow. To being like, all right, wait a second,
Sounds like
let's
Paige.
work,
Except
let's do this.
But we have the kids.
Now we have kids. We got a farm full at the house, pretty much.
It's awesome. No new dogs though?
No new dogs. No, our 2 are great that we have. So, yeah.
Moving?
Well, no, we just moved in.
Yeah, you're
8 months ago.
Northeast Mesa.
North
you
Mesa.
love that place.
Yeah. So up in the
so
groves
North
there.
Mesa, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, love
and
it.
So you're getting a little closer because you went from Tempe kind of closer on in.
Well, it's so funny. I have to go to Apache Junction's court in a week or two on. I took over another firm's all their criminal cases. I don't think I told you about that. And one of their cases that they had solved before we took over all their criminal cases, it popped back up. And it was funny because we kind of have a rule, like we don't go to Pinal County. We try and stay really in Maricopa,
right.
Phoenix, and all of that. And then I was like, actually, guys, based on where I live, I'm actually now closer to Apache Junction's courthouse than most of our, West Side courts. So I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm going to be there.
Yep. It's true. I'm closer. I'm in Gilbert. So I'm closer to Pinal, leaving my doorstep and entering court.
Wow. Than Peoria, for sure.
Well, than anything Phoenix and beyond.
Yeah.
So most of my stuff's felony stuff that we do, but we do a ton of the misdemeanor stuff. But a lot of those are handled by Brian or Jessica, and they're amazing gunslingers. Mike, if it's a little bit dicey, but at the end of the day, Pinal is awesome. Look, welcome home. You're going back. Yeah. So you're going out of your.
I don't know. AJ's court is nice. We like that.
Is it municipal or justice?
I like the municipal court. Justice is only. But then if you don't got that, then you're headed to like Florence, and now you got an extra.
True enough.
There's your extra 20 plus.
And that's what I was thinking of is Florence, because AJ. Justice. I used to love AJ Justice Court. For about a decade, it was awesome. It was run by some retiree dude, like military JAG guy.
Yeah, he was there a long time
and
ago.
it was there a long time, and it was kind of just what he thought fit.
you got great outcomes.
And he was usually
fast,
thinking right.
efficient.
He
Yeah.
was very efficient.
He got the ego out of his system.
Yep.
He was like, look, this,
Yeah, he was
this
just
little crime
retired
isn't going
kind
to
of,
save
and
the
just
world.
making
Like,
his extra
Yeah.
couple bucks on top of his retirement. It was awesome. Loved him. Since he's been gone, do not like that place very much.
Hey,
So-
every court's got their thing, right? And it's like once you figure it out, then it changes,
Yeah.
and then it changes,
And then it changes on you, and then
Yeah.
you got to keep figuring out the code.
But again, this is why you hire lawyers, right? Who only do criminal law and have lawyers that only do criminal law, because like they keep up faster with these judges and these prosecutors than us as the owners sometimes too. Like our boots on the ground lawyers,
There's no question.
they beat us.
There's no question
because they know
and
the
when
tricks.
when they pull over for police officers in the shade, and they always seem to know where to drive and when to drive, and how to start their vehicles from a seated position on the from the passenger side.
Yeah.
They know how to do it. Like that's what you want in a lawyer. You want a smart.
You got to think smarter,
ahead.
not harder.
I like it. Well, we're going to
you.
see you with 3 kids next time.
Absolutely, Dana. Thank
And
you
see
very
what
much.
happens let's see what's coming next. You never know with you.
All right. Well, thank you guys. If you haven't already, please follow us, like us.
Yeah,
share
subscribe, hit the bell thingy,
Yeah.
and send us some
Questions,
content.
yeah. What do you guys
What do you guys
got?
want us us to talk about? Because we like crap like that.
Yeah.
I do.
I know we take a lot of your stories, and I call it my fan mail. So the believers and the non-believers. So come up with a lot of ideas.
I love
like
it.
this.
I love it.